Admiral Zektar stood before the massive viewing screen aboard his flagship, watching the small blue planet slowly rotate below them. His 4 eyes studied the world with the same cold interest a scientist might show when examining bacteria under a microscope. Earth, the humans called it. Another primitive world, ready for the taking. "Report," he commanded in his deep, rumbling voice. Consul Mordun stepped forward, his scaled hands holding a data tablet. The Catherian diplomat had spent months studying the human species. His report would decide Earth's fate. "The primitives call themselves humans," Mordan began. "We have observed them for 6 months. They are a Class 7 species at best. They have basic space travel, but nothing that threatens us." Zektar nodded. In 300 years, the hegemony had conquered 47 worlds. Earth would be number 48. The humans would surrender quickly, just like all the others. "What about their weapons?" the Admiral asked. "Crude chemical explosives they call nuclear weapons," Mordan replied with obvious disgust. "Their most powerful bombs are barely worth our notice. Our shields can stop anything they have." On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen sat in her small office at the SETI research facility in California. For weeks, her equipment had been picking up strange signals from space. The patterns were too organized to be natural, but too complex to be human. She had reported her findings, but her superiors thought she was imagining things. Sarah stared at her computer screen. The signals were getting stronger. Whatever was out there was getting closer. 3,000 miles away in Washington, D.C., General Marcus Rodriguez walked quickly through the Pentagon's underground levels. The Joint Chiefs had called an emergency meeting. The reason was classified, but Rodriguez had heard whispers. Something was coming. The meeting room was filled with worried faces. The Secretary of Defense stood at the head of the table, his expression grim. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation," he began. 3 hours ago, NORAD detected massive objects entering our solar system. They are not asteroids. They are not ours. And they are heading directly for Earth. Back on the hegemony flagship, Zektar reviewed the battle plan. It was simple as always. Show force, demand surrender, occupy the planet. The humans would see their ships, understand they were outmatched, and give up without a fight. "How many ships do we need?" Zektar asked his staff. 50 should be enough," replied his tactical officer. "The humans have no real space defenses. We could take the planet with 20 ships, but 50 will make the point clear." Zektar disagreed. "Bring 200 ships. I want this conquest to be quick and clean. The humans need to see that resistance is hopeless." The hegemony had studied human history. They knew about the wars, the fighting, the endless conflicts. But they saw this as proof of human weakness, not strength. A species that fought itself constantly could never unite against a real threat. "Their military forces are scattered across hundreds of nations," Mordan explained. "They waste their energy fighting each other. When we arrive, they will try to surrender separately. Some will even help us control the others." On Earth, Sarah Chen finally got her meeting with government officials. She sat in a secure room with military officers and intelligence agents, explaining what she had discovered. "The signals are definitely artificial," she said, pointing to her data. "And they're using quantum encryption methods that are far beyond anything we have. Whatever is sending these signals is very advanced." General Rodriguez leaned forward. "Doctor, in your professional opinion, what are we dealing with?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I think we're about to have visitors. And based on the complexity of their technology, they're probably not coming to trade recipes." The first open contact came exactly 72 hours later. Every radio, television, and internet connection on Earth received the same message at the same time. The voice was artificial, speaking in perfect English, Chinese, Arabic, and dozens of other languages simultaneously. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Zektar of the Galactic Hegemony. Your planet has been selected for integration into our alliance. You have 72 hours to surrender your governments and military forces. Resistance will be met with appropriate force. This is your only warning. The message played once, then silence. Around the world, governments went into emergency session. Military forces scrambled to prepare for something they had only seen in movies. In the United States, General Rodriguez found himself in charge of planning a defense against an enemy they knew nothing about. "What do we have?" he asked his staff. "Nuclear missiles, conventional forces, and a lot of very worried allies," came the reply. Rodriguez studied the intelligence reports. The aliens had been watching them for months. They knew about human weapons, human tactics, human divisions. But the general wondered if the aliens really understood what they were dealing with. Sarah Chen found herself recruited into a hastily formed task force. Her job was to analyze alien communications and try to understand their technology. In just 3 days, she had gone from studying distant radio signals to preparing for war with an alien empire. As the 72-hour deadline approached, the hegemony fleet took position around Earth. 200 massive ships arranged themselves in perfect formation, their weapons pointed at the planet below. Zektar watched the human reaction with satisfaction. Their military forces were moving, but slowly. Their governments were arguing among themselves. Everything was going exactly as planned. "They will surrender within hours of the first demonstration," he told his staff. "Humans are emotional creatures. Fear will make them reasonable." On Earth, the response was different than expected. Instead of panic and surrender, something else was happening. Old enemies were talking to each other. Military forces were sharing information. Scientists, soldiers, and politicians who had never agreed on anything were suddenly working together. General Rodriguez received reports from around the world. Russia was offering missile support. China was sharing satellite data. European nations were coordinating their defenses. Even countries that had been at war just days before were now planning to fight side by side. "Sir," one of his aides reported, "we're receiving cooperation offers from every nation on Earth. They all want to coordinate the response." Rodriguez smiled grimly. Maybe the aliens knew about human weapons and human conflicts, but they had missed something important. They did not understand what humans could do when they stopped fighting each other and started fighting together. The 72 hours were almost up. Soon, the aliens would learn their first lesson about humanity. They had made a very serious mistake. The 72 hours ended at exactly noon, Earth time. Admiral Zektar gave the order, and the first wave of hegemony ships moved toward the planet. Their energy weapons charged with a low humming sound that could be heard across the vacuum of space through the ship's hull vibrations. "Begin with the demonstration strikes," Zektar commanded. "Target their military bases and government centers. Make it clear that resistance is useless." The first beams of energy lanced down from orbit. Bright blue light cut through Earth's atmosphere and struck military installations across 6 continents. The Pentagon's outer walls glowed and melted. The Kremlin's ancient towers collapsed in seconds. Military bases in China, Britain, India, and France were reduced to smoking craters. Zektar watched the destruction with satisfaction. Now the humans would understand. Their primitive weapons were nothing compared to hegemony technology. But something was wrong. Instead of surrender messages, Zektar's communication officers reported something unexpected. Human military forces were not standing down. Instead, they were moving to hidden positions. Missile silos that had been dormant for decades were suddenly coming online. Submarine fleets were diving deep into the oceans. General Rodriguez stood in the emergency command center buried deep beneath the Colorado mountains. The facility had been built during the Cold War to survive nuclear attack. Today, it was humanity's last hope. "Report!" Rodriguez barked as his staff worked frantically at their stations. "Sir, we lost the Pentagon and 12 major bases in the first strike," an aide reported. "But Protocol Scorched Earth is active. All hidden assets are online and ready." Rodriguez nodded grimly. Protocol Scorched Earth was humanity's most desperate defense plan. It assumed that conventional military forces would be destroyed quickly. The real fight would come from assets the enemy did not know about. For decades, human nations had prepared to fight each other in a global war. They had built secret weapons, hidden bases, and backup systems. Now all of that preparation would be used against a new enemy. "Communications, patch me through to all Allied command centers," Rodriguez ordered. Within minutes, he was speaking directly to military leaders in Russia, China, Europe, and dozens of other nations. The same conversation was happening everywhere. "The aliens think they have crippled us," Rodriguez said. "They have made their first mistake." Dr. Sarah Chen worked frantically in a bunker beneath the SETI facility. Her job had changed completely. Instead of listening for alien signals, she was now trying to understand alien technology. Pieces of debris from the first strikes were being analyzed by teams of scientists around the world. "The energy weapons use focused plasma," she reported to the military analysts. "But the power systems have vulnerabilities. If we can overload their capacitors with electromagnetic pulses..." Her words were being transmitted to every human military unit still operational. Around the world, teams of engineers and physicists were working to turn Earth's industrial capacity into a weapon of war. The second wave of alien attacks came 6 hours later. This time, the hegemony ships came closer to the surface, confident that human resistance had been broken. Troop transports began landing in major cities. Alien soldiers marched out, expecting to find cowering humans ready to surrender. Instead, they found empty streets and abandoned buildings. The humans had vanished. The first ambush happened in New York City. A squad of hegemony soldiers was moving through Times Square when the attack came from all directions. Human special forces emerged from sewers, subway tunnels, and hidden positions in buildings. They used weapons that should not have been effective against alien armor, but the humans had learned fast. The weapons were enhanced with technology reverse-engineered from alien debris. The electromagnetic pulse grenades disrupted alien shield systems. The modified ammunition could penetrate alien armor. The squad was wiped out in 30 seconds. Similar attacks happened in London, Moscow, Beijing, and dozens of other cities. The aliens had expected easy occupation. Instead, they found themselves fighting an invisible enemy that seemed to know their weaknesses. Admiral Zektar stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. In just 12 hours, the hegemony had lost 40 ships and over 2,000 soldiers. The humans were supposed to surrender after the first demonstration of force. Instead, they were fighting back with surprising effectiveness. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Consul Mordan checked his data again. "Sir, our intelligence was accurate. Human technology is primitive. Their weapons should not be able to damage our ships or soldiers." "Then explain these losses," Zektar roared. The explanation came in the form of a coordinated human counterattack. It began with electromagnetic pulse weapons hidden in abandoned cities. The pulses disabled alien communication systems and navigation equipment. Then came the nuclear missiles. But these were not the crude weapons the aliens had expected. Human engineers had modified them with alien technology recovered from the debris. The warheads were enhanced, the delivery systems improved. Most importantly, they were launched in coordinated salvos from hidden positions the aliens had never detected. The first nuclear strike destroyed an entire hegemony squadron. 20 ships simply vanished in a burst of enhanced atomic fire. The second strike took out the alien communication relay. The third disabled their main supply ship. On Earth, General Rodriguez watched the results with grim satisfaction. "Phase 1 complete," he announced to his staff. "Now we move to Phase 2. Phase 2 was even more devastating for the aliens. Human submarines hidden in the deep ocean began hunting alien ships that had landed on the water. The submarines used new torpedo designs based on alien energy technology. Each torpedo could destroy ships 10 times larger than itself, At the same time, human cyber warfare specialists launched their attack on alien computer systems. Dr. Chen had helped them understand alien communication protocols. Now they turned that knowledge into a weapon. The cyber attack was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to destroy alien systems, the humans simply confused them. Navigation computers received false coordinates. Weapon systems received incorrect targeting data. Communication networks transmitted random noise instead of orders. The result was chaos in the alien fleet. Ships collided with each other. Weapons fired at empty space. Troop transports landed in the wrong locations, leaving soldiers stranded in remote areas where human guerrilla fighters were waiting. By the end of the first day, the hegemony invasion was in complete disarray. Admiral Zektar had lost over half his fleet and had no idea how the primitive humans were achieving such devastating results. "Sir," his tactical officer reported nervously, "the humans are using our own technology against us. Somehow they have learned to enhance their weapons with our power systems." Zektar felt something he had never experienced in 3 centuries of conquest: fear. These humans were not like any species the hegemony had ever encountered. They did not break when faced with superior force. Instead, they learned, adapted, and struck back with unexpected cunning. "How long have they had our technology?" he asked. "Based on the modifications, sir. They must have started reverse engineering our systems within hours of the first strike. Their adaptation rate is impossible." But it was not impossible. It was simply human. For thousands of years, humanity had survived by adapting quickly to threats. Now they were applying that same skill to alien technology. Around the world, human resistance networks were sharing information and coordinating attacks. The internet had been damaged but not destroyed. Backup communication systems allowed real-time coordination between resistance cells on every continent. Dr. Chen found herself at the center of a global scientific effort. Teams in dozens of countries were analyzing alien technology and sharing their discoveries instantly. What one team learned in Tokyo was being applied by fighters in London within hours. "We have identified 17 major vulnerabilities in their systems," she reported to General Rodriguez. "I'm transmitting the data to all resistance units now." Rodriguez smiled for the first time since the invasion began. The aliens had made a crucial error. They had assumed that humans would fight like the other species they had conquered. Instead, humans were fighting like humans. And humans, Rodriguez knew, were very good at war. The real battle was just beginning. 3 weeks into the invasion, Admiral Zektar faced a crisis unlike anything in hegemony history. What should have been a simple conquest had become a nightmare. His fleet was trapped in Earth's gravity well, under constant attack from an enemy that seemed to grow stronger every day. "Status report," he demanded, his voice tight with stress. His tactical officer hesitated before speaking. "Sir, we have lost 137 ships. Human resistance has spread to every occupied territory. Our ground forces are requesting immediate evacuation." Zektar's 4 eyes blazed with fury. "Evacuation? We are the hegemony. We do not retreat from primitives." But the humans were no longer acting like primitives. In just 3 weeks, they had reverse-engineered alien technology so thoroughly that their weapons were becoming as powerful as hegemony systems. Worse, they were improving the technology in ways that surprised even their creators. On Earth, General Rodriguez stood in the expanded command center that now coordinated resistance efforts across the globe. The room buzzed with activity as officers from dozens of nations worked side by side, sharing information and planning attacks. "What's our status on the Australian operation?" Rodriguez asked his aide. "Successful, sir. The human forces used captured alien transport ships to insert special operations teams directly onto 3 hegemony vessels. All 3 ships were captured intact." Rodriguez smiled. The captured ships were being taken apart by teams of engineers and scientists. Every piece of alien technology was studied, understood, and then improved upon. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their guns or bombs, but their ability to learn. Dr. Sarah Chen had become the head of the Xenotechnology Integration Project. Her job was to coordinate the global effort to understand and adapt alien technology. She worked 18 hours a day, but the results were worth it. "We have successfully created hybrid power systems," she reported to the weekly science briefing. "Human fusion reactors enhanced with alien quantum field generators. The power output is 3 times higher than standard hegemony systems." The room erupted in excited chatter. Human engineers were not just copying alien technology, they were making it better. "What about the navigation systems?" asked General Rodriguez, who attended every briefing. "Even better news," Sarah replied. "We have cracked their quantum navigation codes. We can now track every hegemony ship in the solar system. And, sir, we can also jam their ability to navigate back to their home territories." Rodriguez's smile was cold and predatory. The aliens were trapped. They could not leave without navigation, and they could not stay without being destroyed. The hegemony's real problems had begun 2 weeks earlier, when human resistance groups launched Operation Ghost Protocol. Instead of hiding from alien forces, humans began hunting them actively. Teams of fighters would disappear into cities, forests, or mountain ranges, then emerge to strike at alien patrols before vanishing again. But the humans were not using traditional guerrilla tactics. They were using alien technology to enhance their abilities. Captured alien camouflage systems made human soldiers nearly invisible. Enhanced alien weapons gave small human units the firepower of entire alien battalions. The psychological impact on hegemony forces was devastating. Soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds were now afraid to leave their ships. Every shadow could hide a human warrior with weapons capable of destroying a building. Consul Mordan had requested an emergency meeting with Admiral Zektar. The Catharian diplomat was responsible for predicting the human response, and his predictions had been completely wrong. "Admiral, I must revise my assessment of human capabilities," Mordan said, his voice shaking slightly. "We have made serious errors in our evaluation." "What errors?" Zektar demanded. "We assumed human conflicts were signs of weakness. We were wrong. Human warfare has made them excellent at combat. They have been preparing to fight enemies exactly like us for their entire modern history." Zektar did not want to hear this. "Explain." Mordan brought up holographic displays showing human military doctrine. "For 70 years, humans have been preparing for global war against enemies with superior technology. They have built hidden weapons, backup systems, and resistance networks. Their entire military philosophy is based on fighting larger, more advanced enemies." The Admiral stared at the displays in growing horror. The humans had not just prepared for war, they had prepared for this exact kind of war. "Furthermore," Mordan continued, "their industrial capacity is far greater than we estimated. They can produce new weapons and equipment faster than we can destroy it. And their ability to adapt technology is unprecedented in galactic history." On Earth, the proof of human adaptability was becoming impossible to ignore. Human forces had moved beyond simple resistance to active offense. They were building their own spacecraft using hybrid technology that combined human engineering with alien systems. The first human-built warship launched from a secret facility in the Sahara Desert. It looked different from both human and alien designs, but it was powerful enough to engage hegemony vessels in direct combat. More importantly, it was just the first of many. Dr. Chen watched the launch with pride and worry. "We are building 12 more ships," she told General Rodriguez. "But, Admiral, I am concerned about what we are becoming." Rodriguez understood her concern. The war was changing humanity. They were learning to fight at a galactic level, but they were also becoming more dangerous than they had ever been before. "Doctor, we have a choice," Rodriguez replied. "We can become the kind of species that can defend itself in a hostile galaxy, or we can be destroyed by species that already are. I prefer survival." The human industrial machine was now fully focused on war production. Factories that had built cars were now building weapons. Computer companies were designing military systems. The entire planet had become a single, massive, military-industrial complex. But the most frightening development for the hegemony was human cyber warfare. Dr. Chen's teams had not only cracked alien computer systems, they had learned to create viruses specifically designed for alien technology. The viruses were works of art. They did not simply destroy alien systems. Instead, they turned those systems against their users. Alien weapons would fire at their own ships. Navigation computers would guide vessels into asteroid fields. Communication systems would broadcast human propaganda instead of military orders. The psychological warfare was equally devastating. Humans had studied hegemony communications and learned to exploit alien fears and cultural weaknesses. They broadcast messages that turned different alien species against each other within the coalition. "The Vraxians think the Cytherians are planning to abandon them," reported a human intelligence officer. "The Cytherians think the Vraxians are keeping the best loot for themselves. 3 hegemony ships have already had fights between crews of different species." Admiral Zektar found himself fighting 2 wars, one against the humans and one to keep his own coalition from falling apart. The stress was affecting his judgment and his health. "Sir," his medical officer reported, 17% of our troops are showing signs of combat stress disorder. Morale is at historic lows. Some units are requesting to surrender to human forces." The idea of hegemony soldiers surrendering to primitives was so shocking that Zektar could barely process it. But the reports were clear. Human treatment of prisoners was better than hegemony treatment of their own troops. The turning point came when human forces launched their first coordinated orbital assault. Using captured alien technology and their own hybrid spacecraft, they attacked the hegemony fleet directly. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 30 more alien ships had been destroyed or captured. But the real victory was psychological. Humans had proven they could fight the hegemony in space and win. General Rodriguez watched the battle from his command center, coordinating attacks across 3-dimensional space with the same skill his predecessors had used to coordinate land battles. Human military doctrine adapted to space warfare with terrifying efficiency. "Target the command ship," he ordered. "If we can capture Admiral Zektar, we can end this war on our terms." The assault on Zektar's flagship was led by Colonel Maria Santos, a Special Forces officer who had become expert in zero-gravity combat. Her team used human-made equipment enhanced with alien technology to board the massive vessel. The fight through the ship's corridors was brutal, but brief. Alien security forces had never faced humans trained specifically for ship-to-ship combat. Within 2 hours, Colonel Santos and her team had reached the bridge. Admiral Zektar faced the human warrior with something approaching respect. He had learned too late that humans were not primitives to be conquered. They were apex predators that had been fighting for survival their entire existence. "You wish to negotiate?" he asked. Colonel Santos smiled grimly. "No, Admiral. We want you to understand something. This was never about whether you could conquer us. This was about whether you could afford the cost." Looking at his ruined fleet and scattered forces, Admiral Zektar finally understood. The humans had never intended to win by being stronger. They had won by making victory too expensive to achieve. The lesson was simple, but it had taken a war to teach it. Never underestimate a species that has spent millennia learning how to kill its own kind. They were very, very good at it. Admiral Zektar sat in his cell aboard the human command station, staring through the transparent aluminum window at what remained of his once mighty fleet. In 6 months, the hegemony invasion force had been reduced from 200 ships to fewer than 30. The humans had not just defended their world, they had captured or destroyed everything he had brought to conquer them. General Rodriguez entered the cell, carrying a data tablet and wearing the expression of a man who held all the cards in a deadly game. "Admiral, I have a proposition for you," Rodriguez said, sitting across from his prisoner. "You can help us end this war quickly, or you can watch us destroy the rest of your fleet piece by piece." Zektar's 4 eyes focused on the human general with grudging respect. "What do you want?" "Contact your leaders. Tell them that Earth demands representation in the Galactic Council. Tell them that the age of easy conquest is over." 3 months earlier, such words would have been laughable. Now, they were backed by the most powerful fleet in the solar system. The humans had not only reverse-engineered hegemony technology, they had improved it beyond recognition. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the main laboratory of the orbital research station that humans had built from captured alien ships. Around her, teams of scientists and engineers worked on projects that would have been impossible just months before. "Report on Project Earthforge," she requested. Her assistant, Dr. Kim Patel, consulted his notes with excitement. "We have successfully created hybrid antimatter reactors that are 40% more efficient than hegemony designs. The new quantum navigation systems can plot courses through space that alien technology cannot follow. And the weapon systems—" He paused, grinning. "The weapon systems are beyond anything the galaxy has seen." Sarah nodded with satisfaction. Humanity's greatest advantage had always been their ability to take existing ideas and make them better. Now they were applying that skill to technology from across the galaxy. The first demonstration of human technological supremacy came when the hegemony attempted to send reinforcements. A battle group of 50 ships arrived at the edge of the solar system, expecting to find the remains of Zektar's fleet victorious over a conquered Earth. Instead, they found a human fleet waiting for them. The human ships were unlike anything in the galaxy. They combined the best features of Earth engineering with alien technology, creating vessels that were faster, more powerful, and more versatile than pure hegemony designs. But the real surprise was not the ships themselves. It was how humans used them. Admiral Chen Wei, the first commander of Earth's Space Navy, had studied every space battle in recorded galactic history. She understood that most alien species fought space battles like ground battles, with formations and predictable tactics. Humans fought space battles like humans, with creativity, deception, and ruthless efficiency. "Begin Operation Mousetrap," Admiral Chen ordered from her flagship, the newly commissioned Earth vessel Defiant. The human fleet appeared to scatter in panic as the hegemony reinforcements approached. The alien commanders, confident in their superiority, pursued what they thought were fleeing primitives. It was exactly what the humans wanted. The trap was sprung when the alien ships found themselves surrounded by hidden human vessels that had been using advanced stealth technology. But the real surprise was not the ambush. It was the weapons the humans had developed. The new human beam weapons cut through hegemony shields like paper. Missiles that appeared to miss their targets instead released clouds of nanobots that ate through alien hull armor. Most devastating of all were the quantum disruptors that could disable an entire ship's power system in seconds. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it was over, the entire hegemony reinforcement fleet had been either captured or destroyed. Not a single human ship was lost. News of the victory spread across Earth's global communication network within hours. Humanity had moved beyond mere survival. They were now demonstrating superiority over their would-be conquerors. But the humans were not finished. General Rodriguez had learned from studying hegemony tactics that the aliens had never faced an enemy that carried the war to their territory. Every species they conquered had fought defensively until they were overwhelmed. Humans would be different. "Launch Operation Thunderbolt," Rodriguez ordered. Operation Thunderbolt was humanity's first offensive strike beyond Earth's solar system. Using captured hegemony navigation data, human fleets began attacking alien supply lines and communication stations throughout nearby star systems. The attacks were surgical and devastating. Human Special Forces teams, trained in zero-gravity combat and equipped with hybrid technology, struck at hegemony facilities light years from Earth. They destroyed weapons depots, captured supply ships, and most importantly, gathered intelligence about the larger galactic situation. What they learned was encouraging. The hegemony was not as unified or powerful as they had appeared. The coalition was held together by fear and mutual benefit, not loyalty. Many member species had joined only because resistance seemed impossible. Dr. Chen found herself leading a new project, psychological warfare on a galactic scale. Using captured hegemony communication systems, humans began broadcasting across the galaxy, sharing the story of Earth's successful resistance. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen, speaking for the free world of Earth," her message began. 6 months ago, the hegemony told us that resistance was impossible. Today, we hold Admiral Zektar as our prisoner, and his fleet serves as our raw materials for building better ships. The message included detailed technical specifications for the weapons and tactics that had defeated the hegemony forces. It was an open invitation for other species to learn from humanity's example. The effect on the galactic community was electric. For 300 years, the hegemony had seemed invincible. Now a single world had not only defeated them, but was sharing the knowledge of how to do it. Rebellion began spreading across hegemony territory. Species that had been enslaved for centuries suddenly had hope. More importantly, they had weapons designs and tactical information that could level the playing field. But humanity's most shocking revelation was yet to come. In a secure meeting with Earth's Leadership Council, General Rodriguez revealed the final phase of humanity's defense plan. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you something that will change our relationship with the galaxy forever," he said, bringing up a holographic display. The display showed a massive space station hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. It was enormous, larger than any city on Earth, and it was completely operational. "This is Station Prometheus," Rodriguez explained. "We began construction during the Cold War as a backup plan if Earth became uninhabitable. It was designed to support 50 million people and serve as a base for interstellar colonization." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity had been preparing for interstellar expansion for decades. The hegemony invasion had simply accelerated their timeline. "The station is equipped with antimatter weapons capable of destroying planets," Rodriguez continued. "It also contains fabrication facilities that can produce 100 warships per month using asteroid materials. In short, even if Earth had been destroyed, humanity would have survived and eventually struck back." Dr. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. She had known that humans were good at war, but she had not realized how thoroughly they had prepared for it. "General, are you saying that the hegemony could never have truly defeated us?" she asked. Rodriguez's smile was cold. "Doctor, the hegemony was doomed from the moment they decided to attack us. They just didn't know it yet." The final blow came when human forces captured a hegemony communication relay and used it to broadcast a message directly to the Galactic Council. "This is General Marcus Rodriguez, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces," the message began. "The hegemony invasion of Earth has failed completely. We now hold territory in 17 star systems and have established permanent bases throughout this region of the galaxy." The message continued with humanity's demands. They wanted full representation in galactic government. They wanted reparations for the damage caused by the invasion. Most importantly, they wanted recognition as a sovereign interstellar power. "The age of easy conquest is over," Rodriguez concluded. Any species that threatens Earth or its allies will face the full military might of humanity. We are not primitives to be enslaved. We are the newest apex predators in this galaxy." Back on his prison ship, Admiral Zektar watched the broadcast with something approaching admiration. He had spent his career conquering species that were completely unprepared for interstellar warfare. Humans were different. They had been preparing for this war their entire history, even before they knew it would come. Their industrial capacity, their technological adaptability, and their tactical brilliance had turned what should have been an easy conquest into a disaster that would reshape the galaxy. The Admiral understood now that the hegemony had made a fundamental error in judgment. They had confused technological primitiveness with weakness. They had forgotten that the most dangerous predators were often the ones that had survived by fighting other predators. Humanity was a species that had been at war with itself for thousands of years. They had learned to fight, to adapt, and to survive under conditions that would have destroyed any other species. Now they were bringing those skills to a galactic war, and the galaxy would never be the same. The hunters had become the hunted, and the lesson was being written in the wreckage of once mighty fleets. 5 years after the failed hegemony invasion, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Council as Earth's first ambassador to the United Systems. The Great Hall on Centauri Prime was filled with representatives from over 300 species, many of whom had never expected to see a human in their lifetimes. "Honored delegates," Sarah began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber, "I come before you not as a conquered primitive, but as the representative of humanity, a species that has proven that the old ways of thinking about power and conquest are finished forever." In the 5 years since the war, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The hegemony still existed, but as a shadow of its former self. 3/4 of its member species had either declared independence or joined the new United Systems that Earth had helped create. The age of conquest was over. General Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Defense, watched the speech from his office on Station Prometheus. The massive space station had become the headquarters for humanity's expanding operations throughout the galaxy. Through the windows, he could see the construction yards where the latest generation of human starships were being built. These new ships were different from the warships humanity had built during the emergency. They were exploration vessels, trade ships, and diplomatic transports. Humanity was finally able to pursue its original dream of peaceful exploration among the stars, but they were also armed. The galaxy had learned that humans could be peaceful neighbors, but only if treated with respect. "Status report," Rodriguez requested from his aide. "Sir, the Mars terraforming project is ahead of schedule. The Venus atmospheric processors are working perfectly, and the first wave of colony ships has reached the Proxima system." Rodriguez nodded with satisfaction. Humanity was expanding into space at a rate that amazed even themselves. The war had accelerated their technology by decades, and now they were using that advantage to claim their place among the stars. But the most important changes were not military or territorial. They were philosophical. On Earth, Admiral Zektar walked through the grounds of the War Memorial Museum, where he now served as a senior advisor. The former hegemony commander had chosen to remain on Earth after his release, finding himself fascinated by the species that had defeated him. He paused before a wall covered with names, the humans and aliens who had died in what historians now called the 72-Hour War. The name was ironic, since the fighting had lasted for months, but it referred to the fact that humanity's fate had been decided in the first 72 hours when they chose to fight, rather than surrender. "Strange, isn't it?" said a voice behind him. Zektar turned to see General Rodriguez approaching, his hair now silver with age, but his eyes still sharp. "What is strange, General?" Zektar asked. 5 years ago, I was planning to kill you and everything you represented. Today, you're one of my most trusted advisors on galactic affairs." Zektar's 4 eyes focused on his former enemy. "Humans have taught the galaxy many lessons, General. The most important is that former enemies can become allies when they share common goals." This was perhaps humanity's greatest gift to galactic civilization. Not their weapons or their technology, but their understanding that conflict did not have to be eternal. Humans had spent millennia fighting each other, but they had also learned how to stop fighting and work together. Dr. Chen's voice continued to echo through the Galactic Council chamber as she outlined humanity's proposals for the next phase of galactic development. "We propose the creation of a galactic defense network," she explained, "not to conquer or control, but to protect developing species from the kind of aggression that was once considered normal." The proposal was revolutionary. Instead of allowing advanced species to prey on weaker ones, the galaxy would actively protect developing civilizations. Humanity had volunteered to provide the military backbone for this protection, but the network would be controlled by the Galactic Council. It was a complete reversal of the old order. The species that had proven most capable of war was now offering to prevent wars. In the audience, Consul Mordan listened with amazement. The former hegemony diplomat had spent years studying human behavior, and he still found them surprising. They had the military power to dominate the galaxy, but instead they were offering to serve as its protectors. After the session ended, Mordan approached Dr. Chen in the corridor outside the chamber. "Ambassador, I must ask you a question that has puzzled me for years," he said. "Your species has proven that you are the most effective warriors in galactic history. You could conquer any species you chose. Why do you instead choose to protect them?" Sarah smiled, remembering a conversation she had once had with General Rodriguez. "Consul, we learned something important during our war with you. Being good at fighting does not mean you have to like it. We are good at war because we had to be. Now that we are safe, we prefer to be good at other things." This was the truth that the galaxy was still learning to understand. Humanity's skill at warfare came from necessity, not desire. Given the choice between conquest and cooperation, they consistently chose cooperation. The evidence was everywhere. Human colonies were established through negotiation and trade agreements, not conquest. Human technology was shared freely with allies. Human military forces were used primarily for defense and peacekeeping. But the galaxy also understood that this peaceful nature came with a condition: respect for human sovereignty and values. The few species that had tested humanity's patience had learned painful lessons about the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. On the industrial world of New Pittsburgh, human engineers worked alongside alien technicians to build the galaxy's most advanced manufacturing systems. The planet had been transformed from a barren rock into a thriving center of interstellar industry in just 5 years. The secret was the fusion of human engineering principles with alien technology. Humans brought creativity, efficiency, and a talent for solving problems with limited resources. Aliens brought knowledge of advanced materials and energy systems. Together, they were creating technology that surpassed anything either could have achieved alone. Production report, requested Director Maria Santos, the former Special Forces colonel who now ran the largest industrial complex in the galaxy. "Ma'am, we're producing 50 starships per month for the United Systems fleet, 200 manufacturing platforms for new colonies, and the first batch of terraforming equipment for the Vegan system." Santos nodded with pride. Humanity was becoming the industrial heart of the new galactic order, not through conquest, but through excellence. Human-built products were prized throughout the galaxy for their reliability and innovative design. But perhaps the most important development was happening in the universities and research institutes that humans had established throughout their territory. These institutions were open to students from any species, creating the first truly integrated galactic educational system. Young aliens studied human military history and learned about strategy, tactics, and leadership. But they also learned about human philosophy, art, and culture. They discovered that the species that had defeated the hegemony was also capable of great beauty and profound wisdom. Dr. Chen had returned to her first love, scientific research. But now, instead of listening for alien signals, she was working with alien scientists to understand the deepest mysteries of the universe. "We have confirmed the existence of 17 more inhabited star systems," she reported to the weekly science briefing. 3 of them show signs of early industrial development. Under the new protection protocols, we are monitoring them carefully and preparing to offer assistance if they request it. This was humanity's new mission in the galaxy. Instead of waiting for aliens to find them, they were actively searching for new civilizations and offering guidance and protection. The species that had been forced to fight for its survival was now helping others avoid the same struggle. The ceremony marking the 5th anniversary of the war's end was held simultaneously on Earth and at stations throughout human space. General Rodriguez gave the keynote address from Station Prometheus, with his words transmitted to billions of humans and aliens across the galaxy. 5 years ago, we were told that resistance was impossible, he began. Today, resistance has become hope. The galaxy has learned that no species, no matter how powerful, has the right to dominate others. This lesson was written in fire and blood, but it was written clearly enough that the galaxy will not forget it. In the audience at the Earth ceremony, Admiral Zektar listened with the mixture of regret and pride that had become familiar to him over the years. He regretted the war that had cost so many lives, but he was proud to have played a part in teaching the galaxy a lesson that had needed to be learned. The hegemony believed that strength gave them the right to rule, Rodriguez continued. They learned that true strength comes from protecting others, not dominating them. This is the lesson that humanity offers to the galaxy, that our greatest power comes not from our ability to destroy, but from our choice to build. As the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the orbital station and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were dozens of human colonies, hundreds of allied worlds, and thousands of species that now lived in freedom instead of fear. It had taken a war to teach the galaxy about human nature. But now that the lesson was learned, humanity could focus on what they did best: exploring, building, and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The species that had shocked the galaxy with their capacity for war was now amazing them with their capacity for wonder. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all. The galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries and opportunities. Humanity had earned their place among the stars not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that no force in the universe was stronger than the will to remain free. The lesson had been taught, the galaxy had learned, and the future belonged to those with the courage to reach for it. In the end, the aliens had been right about one thing: they never expected humanity to fight back. But they had been wrong about what would happen when the fighting stopped. They had expected conquest or destruction. Instead, they got something they had never seen before, a species that was as good at peace as they were at war. The galaxy would never be the same.